Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Marcy, and I'm from the Southern Illinois region, about 20 minutes from St. Louis, just over the river there. And I teach and have been teaching a children's virtues class um, for the last 10 years or so. And I've used Spiritual Playdate resources as part of that um, program for that time. So just excited to meet all of you.
Thanks, Marcy. Sue.
Yes, hello. I'm Sue Blythe, Gainesville, Florida. I am a Baha'i and a co-founder of the Interfaith Climate Group, which is sponsored by the Baha'is of Alachua County. And we are doing a collaborative storytelling adventure to engage people in our local community in a climate conversation that involves many resources, including Spiritual Playdate and all the activities, and then many more. So we're having fun with it.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you, and welcome. Danica.
Hello, friends. My name is Danica. I live in Skokie, Illinois, and I teach a Baha'i children's class.
Wonderful. Do you teach in homes? In the homes?
Yes, yeah. So the children's class happens right here in my living room.
That's wonderful. It's
Yeah.
wonderful. And I'm sure our Baha'i presenters will be telling us more about the structure of some of those things and their resources as well. Charlotta.
Good morning. I'm Charlotta. I'm in Evanston, Illinois. I am the head of First Day School for our Friends, which are Quakers. I've been in religious ed for 18, 19 years. And we have a Baha'i group that rents space and comes in at us here at the Friends meeting in Evanston. And very excited to our youth group are studying world religions, and on March 9th, someone from the Bahai is coming over I have two people coming over to talk to our youth group about that, and then I'm hoping that some of them will go and visit your site in the afternoon. So very excited to joining this group and learning more about the Baha'is.
Thank you, Charlotta. Thank you. Lorelei, would you like to share? And that's okay. We're not sure your connection's good. So if you want to, please jump in. Please please feel free to put your information in.
I'm sorry. I'm traveling. I didn't plan on traveling. This is Lorelei. I could just tell you briefly. So I'm new to Baha'i faith. I have friends that have been involved. I live in Downers Grove. I'm a parent of 3. And I personally have always been involved in world peace efforts in many, many different ways. And my teenager is really looking for some more answers and some more engagement. And I thought, this is a wonderful spiritual play date for parents that help us navigate some of this. So I'm looking forward to today's presentation and getting involved. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thanks, Lorelei. Thank you. Yeah, so I am excited. It looks like we do have a lot of people here from Illinois, and Sue's from Florida. I am going to get right started with our presenters this morning, who are from Illinois and Wisconsin. We are very fortunate, and just to give you a little history, so Spiritual Playdate is an inclusive sort of interfaith program. It wasn't sprung out of any specific faith practices. It was 3 moms on the living room floor. But very quickly, we realized that we wanted our kids to have some understanding of the world's religion, some religious literacy, a realistic worldview. So while we were creating this program very early on, we found ourselves pulling out books and maps and talking about world religion and where some of these ancient practices came from, some of the different prophets, teachers, all of those things. So as we became a more formal online set of resources, we started to seek out wonderful, brilliant advisors from all the different faith traditions, especially people that have been working with kids and are comfortable talking about spiritual traditions and things with kids. So today we have two of our advisors here, and we're so fortunate. We have Ellen Price and Wade Fransson, and Ellen is going to speak first this morning. And Ellen comes from an Episcopalian background and joined the Baha'i faith in 1986. She is the Baha'i Children's Class Coordinator for Wilmette area of Northern Illinois and the program coordinator for North America. And she works at the Baha'i House of Worship in Wilmette, where she's taught children's classes for many, many years. And if you haven't been there, we probably should make sure that you all have a chance to visit that amazing, amazing site in Wilmette. So can we all say welcome to Ellen Price this morning? And thanks, Ellen.
Thank you, Edwina. This is and we've known each other for I don't know how many years, 10 years or so. I think we met at the Parliament of the World's Religions, maybe out in Utah. I don't know, but when I heard about Spiritual Playdate, I was excited because of the concept of having children's classes and learning about religion in the home, because that's what Baha'is do all over the world. Baha'is are having children's classes in each other's homes, and inviting neighbors and friends to come together. In addition to, if they have we happen to have the Baha'i House of Worship for North America here, which is a real blessing here in Wilmette, Illinois. And some Baha'i communities have Baha'i centers or, facilities where they hold children's classes. But I'd say the majority of children's classes around the world are held in each other's homes. So Spiritual Playdate seemed like a natural connection with that concept. So I'm happy to be here. I'm giving an overview of what kind of children's materials and things are happening in the Baha'i community, and I'm able to share. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. So I think you can see my screen. It says children's classes.
Yep.
Okay, great. So this is the Baha'i World Center's website, and I will put in the chat. I may do the links later. I'll send you the links to all of these. So this is the Baha'i.org. If you search for children's classes, this will come up. And so it shows, the importance of educating our children spiritually from young ages. There we are. And at the bottom of this page, it actually shows a number of materials. There's a lesson on honesty, a lesson on patience, and then songs about radiance, joy gives us wings. These are things that in each of the children's classes, there's a set the lesson that includes memorization, which is really important, memorizing a particular quote. So each, here's a quote. So this is a prayer. O thou kind Lord, I am a little child, exalt me by admitting me to the kingdom. I am earthly, make me heavenly. I am of the world below, let me belong to the realm above. Gloomy, suffer me to become radiant. Material, make me spiritual, and grant that I may manifest thine infinite bounties. So the children are encouraged, and in each class they're memorizing different prayers or passages. They have there's games that they play. There's little stories that are read, and there's it's all very detailed and methodical, and you just follow along. And I'll show you here. If you do another search for Baha'i children's classes, you'll see that there's spiritual education. Actually, Baha'is have spiritual education for all ages, beginning from about 5 all the way through, adulthood. And so it's called the Ruhi Institute is where the materials come from. This is in South America where they were developed. And so and I'll send this link too for the Ruhi Institute. And so there's a sequence of courses for those that are 15 years old and older. They go through the various books. There's up to 14, book 14. But you'll see that in each of these books that these are for adults, they are learning to be of service to humanity in different ways. For book 1, part of what you're learning about is the importance of spiritual education and the importance of devotions and prayers. And so the act of service that you're actually learning is encouraging people to pray together, and perhaps hosting devotional gatherings in your home, or just praying with your with people, your neighbors and friends. And this third one, book 3, is where people, adults learn how to teach children's classes. So, so book 3 of this series of Ruhi books helps us to then become a children's class teacher. And then there are materials for teaching the classes. So then, so here's grade 1, they go through the different grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. And so there are different materials here. This first book is available for download actually here on the site. The other grades are not yet at their final version, so they aren't downloadable, but there's a lot of materials available. And this wonderful website is called Supporting the Core Activities. Core activities of the Baha'i faith are like these children's classes, junior youth groups, study circles where you go through all the Ruhi books, and devotional gatherings. These are core activities. So, so on this wonderful site, she has materials for the different grades. So she has Ruhi materials, grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3. And I wanted to particularly point out grade 3, because that was the one that I liked to use for the introductory children's classes here at the House of Worship. Because one of the things, if you don't know already about the Baha'i faith, is that we believe that really there's one religion of God that's been progressively revealed to humanity through these divine educators: Krishna, Abraham, Moses, Zoroaster, Buddha, Christ, Muhammad, and that the latest of these are the founders of the Baha'i faith, the Bab and Baha'u'llah, came in the mid-1800s in Persia. So, so the children, Baha'i children, learn about all of these divine educators and about the different religions, and we're encouraged to go and experience different religious services and to get to know people who are different from ourselves. And so this grade 3 material I loved because it teaches about each of the manifestations of God and their histories. So, so this one for the first lesson, and she has all these great materials here. So the lesson plan is here that you can download, a map of the messengers of God, of where they came from, and this is a little worksheet where they can put in the names of the different founders. So here it is, Abraham, Moses, Krishna, Buddha, Zoroaster, Christ, Muhammad, and then it goes on. Then you get into the Bahai founders, the Bab, and then they don't have the lessons up yet for Baha'u'llah, but these are really wonderful. And I found that for the community, for the wider community especially, that they really love the idea of their children learning about, being aware of all the different religions, and respecting all the different religions. I will show you a picture of something that I know Edwina saw when it was at a very early stage. I made this little puzzle that, let me see, I'm trying to share this too. I made this puzzle for the class. Here it is. And I can make it bigger. There it is. Okay, so, and this was just made out of little floor tiles. They're kind of padded floor tiles that you can buy. I think that's 4 different ones that then I cut up to make it into a puzzle. So this is like, 1, 2, 3, there's 4 different puzzle pieces that have, and then times 3, three rows of 4 pieces of tile. So it starts with the previous manifestations of God, and then Krishna, Abraham, Moses, Zoroaster, Buddha, Christ, Muhammad, the Bab, and Baha'u'llah, and showing that there's a heart, around it, showing that you need all of these in order to see the full picture. You need to see and recognize and appreciate all of the manifestations of God in order to see the full picture. And so, and then at the end, it's future manifestations of God, because we don't believe that Baha'u'llah is the last, but he's just the latest. And so each of the pieces has, then here you can see Hindu. So there's little tags that they can put on each one. So there's these little things that you see, and over here is the blue. So the symbol for each religion, they pick up the symbol, and oh, this one's for Moses, this one's for Jesus, and then so they learn the name of the manifestation of God. That's the term that we use for the divine educators, is manifestation of God or prophets, so they learn the name of the religion, the symbol that represents the religion, and one basic kind of teaching that they had, like for Abraham, it's that there's one God, monotheism, Jesus, the love of God, Moses, the law of God, so just through this little puzzle exercise, they're learning a lot about the different religions. And I think my time is up, so I may stop there if might be a good place to stop.
Thank you, Ellen. I would like to know, I was going to ask you a question to get a few questions started, but I think you answered. My question was going to be, what would your favorite lesson be? And I think you already talked about that. And it is a terrific session. And I do believe so strongly that it's so important for our kids to have some religious literacy. And understand the worldviews, because they will learn about it one way or another. And if they have been really brought into some monopoly on the truth, it might be hard for them to break out. So does anyone have any questions for Ellen? Are you using some of these programs? Would you like to? Can she get you more information? Tell me what you'd like to ask our presenter today. Anyone?
And I'm putting links to those websites here. Hi, Sue.
Yeah. Hey, Ellen. I wondered if you are currently using or plan to use the spiritual Playmate resources in your children's classes as well as the Ruhi books.
Right, right. I mean, the spiritual playdate materials are great, you know, for different, especially the virtues and the different topics. So it's a great combination, you know, for children's classes. Yeah, and I'm not currently teaching classes. I actually work
Okay.
on Sundays. I work on weekends, so the time
Yeah.
when the classes were being held, I'm working now, but but I support all the classes that are going on.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
And I
you.
will talk a little bit more about the spiritual playdate resources and how they do dovetail in and how they are resources that can be used at home to sort of, especially some of the social emotional things that like, you know, just a session on bullying. If kids are being bullied, you know, really getting into the you know, nitty-gritty of that, and then folding in the wonderful traditional resources and classes together with that, I think is one of the big benefits. It's one of the values of having this program alongside, and it is what most faith educators are doing. And I'll come back to that later because does anyone else have any questions for Ellen?
Edwina, you just asked the question about if we're using these materials, you know, if anyone's using them and has any experiences they'd like to share. And the children's class that I'm currently teaching is using the grade 2 materials, but my husband is teaching a children's class with the grade 3 materials that Ellen went into in more detail, and my 11-year-old son is in that class. And one of the cool things that we've been able to do is, you know, we live in Skokie, and Skokie is a very multicultural community. There's lots of friends from lots of different religious backgrounds, and they're our neighbors and we know them. And so we, like when we were doing some of the lessons on Jesus, we asked one of our Catholic nun friends to like invite the kids to her place where she lives and show them around the chapel and share some of the stories. And then we have Jewish neighbors. Skokie is a very Jewish community across the park from us. And so we actually had one of the youth in that family come and tell some of the stories and bring the Torah and explain and sing a song. And, you know, so it's the children's class has been not only a way for the kids to, like through just the lesson and the learning activity themselves to learn about these different faith traditions that come in this beautiful long line, but also to like experientially get to know people in their community that are from these different religious backgrounds.
That's wonderful. And anybody that has the opportunity to visit, especially these beautiful, you know, many of the beautiful sacred sites and spaces that are out there. Not everybody, unfortunately, has the opportunity because we're not all in diverse communities. I learned something interesting about the mosques in America. Because Christianity is so old here. Of course, we have thousands and thousands of Christian sites and churches, and comparatively only a handful of mosques in our country. And interestingly enough, in the evolution, especially in our political climate and all these things that have happened, our Christian sites, even some of our Jewish sites, they have sort of evolved into people worshiping in different areas. So a progressive group might be worshiping in a very progressive church, where a conservative group might be worshiping in a conservative church. And that doesn't happen in the mosques here. It's all in the mosques here. Primarily, everyone is worshiping in that mosque because there are so few actual mosques necessarily spread out through the country. So that conversation is happening in that sacred site. And again, that's been something that just an interesting thing that I hadn't really been aware of before. But I know visiting the sacred sites, especially for the kids. I mean, go into a mosque and see how fascinated these kids are by the bathroom, you know, and the stations of the washing of the face and the feet and all these things and preparing. It's wonderful. Even if you can't do it, see if you can work with somebody to have a Zoom session with the kids and take them on a tour of the building so that at least they're having some experience of finding out more about these other traditions and faiths and what they mean, mostly symbolically too, what they mean, because there's a lot of treasure in all of these teachings. So thank you. Thanks for sharing, Danica. Anybody else have comments or questions for Ellen? Okay, so I am going to say thank you so much to Ellen, and I'm going to introduce our next presenter. Wade Fransson has been, gosh, Wade, we also know each other forever, and has been on our advisory board for forever. And we're so lucky to be working with you on a variety of different things. And we've collaborated on some things in the past at the Parliament of World Religions, et cetera, et cetera. And so for our presentation this morning, Wade is a former Christian minister and a youth educator who moved from an exclusive, elitist religious approach to the all-embracing teachings of the Bahai faith. He is the founder of Soup Media and the Royal Falcon Foundation. He and his family organize experiential leadership camps and work with a large variety of organizations and individuals to promote spiritual education in pursuit of vibrant communities. So welcome, Wade Fransson. Can everyone say welcome?
Thank you so much, Edwina, and everyone. I'm really honored to be here this morning. I wanted to acknowledge a couple of people. I could acknowledge each of you, but Sue in particular, I wanted to mention that right before this meeting, Edwina and I were talking about environmental issues and how to approach them with children. And I would just say that there's a deep and abiding principle going all the way back to the book of Genesis, where when God created Adam, he created him with the purpose of dressing and keeping the garden, right? So fundamental to our existence as human beings is the need to have environmental concerns. And it doesn't have to be an issue that's divisive. It can be an issue that brings people together when we recognize that it is like the very first principle in our creation. I often joke that the first commandment is be fruitful and multiply, and we've had no problem with that one. But before there was that first commandment, there was the purpose, which was dress and keep the garden. And these things must be brought into balance and harmony. And I work with actually organizations on this topic as well. And it's great that we're introducing, ways perhaps to reach early on with this message of unity and oneness around, preserving the Garden of Eden, which is the entire planet, this blue-green jewel floating through space. So Sue, thank you for bringing up that you're involved in that. And then also Charlotta, with the Quakers, we several years ago worked with a Quaker community here, and I attended several of their services, and I was moved to tears at the prayer services of the Quakers. And we worked with their youth group, and we had some of ours children go and share about the Baha'i faith with the Quaker community and vice versa at our center. So just wonderful to hear that brought up as well. And all of you, the great work that you're doing, it's just awesome. So I want to share very quickly a couple of points about what Edwina mentioned about my background. When I resigned from my former fellowship, I was the director of family ministries globally, and we had churches in 120 countries. And we had very well-developed programs for youth called YOU, Youth Opportunities United. I was very much involved in those youth camps all around the world. I established and directed a camp for teenagers in Germany, ran it for 5 years. In the end, it was operated in 4 languages. I was in South Africa, I was in Scotland doing these youth camps. I had less experience with our children's programs because I had come into this fellowship when I was about 11, and I grew up with those youth camps, and they were near and dear to my heart. But we had a very well-developed children's class program, also called YES, Youth Educational Services, with all materials and rolled out. We had a youth magazine reaching 1 million people externally. So it wasn't that we were only inward looking. It was just we were exclusive about who could join us. We did have outreach programs, but these were always in my role that I had when I resigned, it was frustrating to me about our inability to truly reach out, to truly engage people who maybe didn't believe the way we did, and also therefore help our children to avoid having some kind of elitist, privileged attitude. And this really weighed on my heart and my soul, which is part of what eventually led me to find the Baha'is, years after I resigned and was in what I call a spiritual dead end for about 10 years. So enough about me. Let's talk about children's classes. So when we were expecting our first child, and we declared in 2007 as Baha'is, and at that time my wife was newly pregnant, and so our two children were born into the Baha'i faith and into the Baha'i children's class programs, and we just embraced these materials and these approaches and sought to establish children's classes like many of you are doing. What we found was successful in quickly getting these up and running and encouraging a large number of people to join them was to use materials from the Virtues Project, which some of you may have familiarity with. Eventually, I ended up on the board of the Virtues Project International Association, and I was the chair for a year. That organization had some challenges, and it became difficult actually to continue using those materials, some of which, the children's virtues book wasn't owned by that organization. You had to go get the materials. So the materials were just not as readily available. And then, of course, I met Edwina, and we were at the Parliament of World Religions in Toronto. I had founded a publishing company. So the introduction of these external materials into those children's classes is made possible through what they provide. Now, why is it necessary to perhaps consider using these supplemental materials? Well, as you can imagine, in Christian organizations, and I'm sure it's the same in Muslim and others, you want your children to understand what your core beliefs are. That's why these are called core activities in the Baha'i community. We want our children to know what the exact core principles of the Baha'i faith are. And it's awesome that we have this external looking, all embracing view of religion. But in our materials, the stories, the examples, the quotes are all from Baha'i writings. So this causes a challenge when you are going out into the community and trying to enlist others, right? Imagine if we had Christian Sunday school and we wanted to invite other religions, but all we had were stories about Jesus and only quoting the Bible. And now we want Muslim children to join our classes. If we wanted to do that, it would be problematic, even if we believed that we should have them in there, right? Even if we believed in the oneness of all the religions, if our materials only quote from our writings and only use examples from our writings, there's going to be a large number of people who not only don't want to participate, but get a negative impression. They could even come to believe that we are hypocrites, that our deeds do not match our words, right? So this is a potential problem. And the opportunity is to simply include materials that are not from our specific core activities into this. And we could invite others to bring a course from their materials. So for example, when Ellen and I connected years ago, and my wife, who's, by the way, she could be here talking about this because she's really the one that was really engaged in all the children's classes, but we were invited to come and help with some classes in Wilmette around the other religions because of my background as a Christian minister. But we actually selected to assist with the course on Krishna because we had a Hindu friend who was not a Baha'i, who was involved in our children's activities here. We invited her to come and teach the course on Krishna with us. We accompanied her, and she went and gave this beautiful children's class with a book that she had and materials that she had. And it was a wonderful event. Now, this woman eventually became a Baha'i, and I believe it's because of the fact that our actions matched our words and we honored her and allowed her to teach this class with her materials and didn't insist that it be done exactly our way. The point isn't whether somebody becomes a Baha'i or not. That in itself would also be hypocritical, would it not? We are forbidden to proselytize as Baha'is. So the purpose cannot be to try to persuade others to become part of our religion. But again, that impression can arise if we do not have some of these supplementary materials. So we've found that the engagement, that the ability to enlist parents and children from the community is accelerated and much easier. Some of the challenges in deploying these children's classes, getting them up and running, people getting discouraged because it takes so long and it's so hard over time. This is like a hack, to use a modern term that the kids use. This is a hack to make it work so much faster and so much better. To put our money where our mouth is, in that sense of showing that we are inclusive, we do embrace these other religions and incorporating them into our program. In addition, for those who might be concerned about this, if you carefully read the messages that are coming from our institutions, such as the Universal House of Justice, which is the authoritative body in the Bahai community, we have been encouraged for the last several years to be more open, to be more creative, to apply with learning, with receptivity and reflection, the lessons that reality is showing us. And from having been doing this for 12 to 14 years, our learning is that when you open yourself up in this way to doing these things, the world opens up to you, and this process is greatly accelerated. So I could go on and on and on about the various things we've done and how this works for us, but I really wanted to just thank Edwina for the work that she's doing, this sharing community that she's building, the way she's going about it. It has so much enormous potential, and I'm glad to be here to encourage those who are diligently working within the Baha'i communities institute process to use those materials. And if there are others here, to maybe consider incorporating some of the Baha'i materials from our core activities into what you're doing. As Charlotte, it seems like you're doing a little bit of that in the work that you're doing. So I'll stop there and open it up to any questions in the interest of not. I often joke also that I'm a former minister, so I like to talk and sometimes say too much, but I'll cut myself off right there and open it up to any questions or thoughts or comments.
I personally am so excited about everything you said, and I feel like you put into words what I haven't been able to for a while now. The reason that I use all these supplementary materials in our, Baha'i focused children's classes, it's exactly for the reasons that you said, and I think just like reiterating that, making sure your deeds match your words is really important. So thanks for sharing all that.
Yeah, and this is not a criticism. We all have blind spots, right? I struggled with this in my former denomination because I thought a little bit differently than some of the other ministers around me. I have a very unusual, turbulent, traumatic background as a child. Just the briefest piece here, I was in a domestic kidnapping situation, smuggled out of the country at age 9 by my father, and separated from both parents and siblings for 2 years. This case eventually went to the Supreme Court of Sweden after 2.5 years, and I was returned to my mother, who was an alcoholic, which is why my dad did it in the first place, and then ended up in an orphanage for a while and so on. So all of this was my traumatic background, but the blessing of that is that it opened me up to think differently, to have a little bit more empathy, and to understand where other people were coming from. I ended up living in 7 countries, speak 4 languages. This allows me to actually see from the outside a little bit more than we normally would, to see how others may be perceiving us, right? And it's that perception that we can be so enthusiastic about what we're doing and the rightness of what we're doing, and how everything that we're doing is just so wonderful and perfect, that we don't see that blind spot that other people are seeing with us. And this is one I've identified, that by including these other materials, it's a hack. It instantly solves that problem of those perceptions, rather than trying to sort of argue our way out of them, to to explain the big, broad spiritual principles of what we're doing that show where our heart is, where our intent is, and the value of what we're doing. No, the simple fact that we're using those other materials just takes any such perception off the table, takes the discussion off the table. Because some of the people that don't participate, they might be spreading negative things about you, especially if you're working in a neighborhood community. That might not be coming back to you, but we've had experiences where people literally ran away from the Baha'is who were coming around to invite people. I mean, literally ran the other way and said, I know what you're doing, right? This is reality. And what their perception is that we are trying to indoctrinate kids, which we're absolutely not doing. But once that perception happens and starts spreading, you end up inoculating people against what you're doing instead of getting them to endorse and embrace and spread the good word of what you're doing. So this is a risk that we should be aware of. And again, just incorporating a few other materials is an easy risk mitigation, to put it that in those terms. So I'm glad to hear, Marcy, that you've been sort of chewing on this issue in your own way. There are easy solutions. This is the big opportunity, not a problem.
Thanks, Wade. And I'm sure there's a couple of other questions. Kaya, you're leaning in. Do you have something to share, or a comment or a question? Can you hear me, Kaya?
Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah, we got you.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
So, if I can let myself say a comment, I would like to celebrate the courage that Wade have. He was very courageous to let what he think was wrongdoing behind and continue moving and finding a good place where he feel good and he feel that expansion of consciousness. I'm really happy to have heard that today, because a lot of us lack of this courage. We are afraid to break those limits and try to trust God. We are so afraid to break our own limit, and yeah, Wade, you just showed us that this is possible, and I strongly relate to that, because at some point in my own life I did it. So yeah, bravo.
And the opportunity is to provide an environment for children where they can explore these different thoughts and ideas and ways of looking at things, to help it make it maybe not so hard for them to move to the left and then to move to the right as the wind blows. A sailboat has to tack to the left and then tack to the right. You cannot sail straight into the wind, right?
Yeah.
I have a comment on our kids that I think might be appropriate right now, and us as parents and educators. I think what we'd like to see with our kids is for them to become truth students. And I think many parents are so turned off by the amount of indoctrination that does go on in organized faith. You can see there's been an exodus from many, many traditions. And it's for good reason. I mean, there are other reasons that it's happening too, but a lot of parents that are critical thinkers think that the faith education that's out there in many of these organizations and traditions is it's just not serving their kids. It's dry. It's not interactive like we'd like to see all of our schools be interactive with the kids. There's volunteers, and a lot of the curriculum is not necessarily something that they feel is relevant for them. And because kids need to be able to ask questions and explore things and discover truth and discover what resonates in their heart, which may not come when they're 5 or 6. That may come when they're 12 or in college or when they're 30. But what you want to do is not teach them what to think, but teach them how to think. So we have to be really careful about the way we approach these things. And so I think Spiritual Playdate, it is different specifically because it was not born out of a religious ideology. It is about exploration, and it allows us to go all kinds of places, all different faith traditions, all different spiritual principles, but just very simple social emotional things too, like fear and anxiety. You know, I think my faith journey has been so powerful to help me have hope, become resilient, and combat my own anxiety. What I never learned was that anxiety is a human condition based on our fears, and that I do have some control over it. And when I started to have panic attacks, it took me ages to figure out that I wasn't dying, and why not teach kids about these kinds of things when they're younger and they can understand that everyone's going to experience this, and prepare them a little bit for the world, prepare them for middle school, that they're going to probably go through something hard. They're probably going to get bullied and they're going to be okay. And all their friends are probably going to go through something. Knowing that ahead of time, rather than waiting until a best friend cyberbullies them and crushes them and they think it's the end of their life, is such a proactive sort of a hopeful tool that you can give kids. So this is what we hope at Spiritual Playdate. I'm not going to get into too much right now. I want to still talk a little bit more about the Bahai stuff, but I do see a place where this can dovetail so easily into the materials. Bahai, particularly the Baha'is are so open already. And the folks that are interested in Baha'i are, like some of the other traditions, are very open to the idea of some evolved curriculum and resources. So I don't, like I said, there is an appetite. I hear it all the time from people. There are appetite from the Baha'is, from the Baha'i teachers, from the parents. There's an appetite to have more. And I think by us collaborating and working together on all these things, especially with all the resources the Baha'is already have, the fact that you're homeschooling, which is not that usual, not that many faiths are homeschooling. They want people to come to a center. They really don't offer much for kids, many of the places. And so the fact that it's already a homeschooling environment makes it so much easier for you to do something in the community to serve the kids in your community, not just your kids or the neighbors' kids, but all the kids in the community, and including them and inviting them. And I will, to Wade's point, I will say, I also hear this all the time. If you want to do a session on Christianity, sessions on Hinduism, and invite folks at the library, sessions on Jesus, whatever you want to do, that's lovely. But if you want to appeal to a broader swath of your community, do a session on bullying, do a session on faith and fear and anxiety, on justice, on the environment. Those are the subjects that parents are interested in, and they want their kids to understand and develop a heart for activism and compassion and empathy. So we are a very collaborative organization. We have a large advisory board. We're constantly looking to develop new content. If you have content that you want to work with us on, we would love to talk to you. So I have one quick question for Wade before, and just so everybody knows, this is, we do have another 37 minutes. I hope that's okay with everybody. I did make this a little bit longer because the question and answers are always kind of a treasure. And so I hope that's okay with everybody and you can join us. So Wade, I want to hear a little bit about the leadership camps and what you're doing, what you've done that's been successful, but also what you're doing. Because I do hear a lot from folks that want to run camps. They want to have summer camps. We have Children of Abraham, our affiliate. They do a 3-day interfaith camp with high schoolers. So throwing out these ideas for people to play with is really important because we don't know where we're going to plant seeds and where something wonderful else is going to pop up.
Well, thank you. So I been involved in youth camps my whole life. That's really where my passion is. The children's classes are so important, but it's where those young people are coming of age. They're beginning to think for themselves, establish their own identity, take conscious thought around the path that they're going to be on. That's the moment I really, really love working with kids. I always have. So we established the Royal Falcon Foundation to further an experiment that we were doing on our own property. We bought a 7.5-acre property with a swimming pool, and we started something called the Hillcrest Orchard Camp. Now, this is grounded in agriculture. Even many Baha'is don't know the degree to which Abdul Baha, who's known as the master or the perfect example of the Baha'i faith's teachings, how involved he was in agriculture. There's a new book that's out called Odyssea, which talks about the community, the interfaith community that he built around agriculture in the Holy Land. And as a Baha'i, I view this as a major fulfillment in the prophecy that the desert will blossom like a rose. The Baha'i community has something called the Desert Rose Baha'i Institute in Arizona, which I believe William Sears also founded around that principle of the desert shall blossom like a rose, a prophecy from Isaiah. So we grounded our program in raised bed gardens, a spring, summer, fall camp. We had lots of fun stuff, experiential learning, different activities, but the core is getting these kids' hands off their phone and into the dirt and teaching them how to plant a seed, take care of that seed and have it grow and then harvest it. We've had them plant trees, and I could go on and now about the camps. You can find videos on the royalfalconfoundation.org, highly professional videos of the programs we had, including one we did at Desert Rose Baha'i Institute. The problem with these camps is it's really hard to duplicate them because it takes an enormous amount of resources to do so. We worked with some Christian pastors who wanted to have similar programs. So what we've done now is we've created a program called Soul Seeds. We're working with Molly Engelhardt and her Sovereign Ranch and regenerative farming. We're working with Spiritual Playdate. We're working with the Interfaith Library and a number of other groups to roll out the Soul Seeds program. What is this program? It takes the ability to create a raised bed garden in a day, to provide some funding for that, and to have the kids in one day have that local focal point of raised bed gardens. And it can be done anywhere, and it can be started in a single day. Then they have a manual, which is aligned with the Baha'i Junior Youth Program, so that they can establish what's known as a junior youth group, where that age group kids are now using this as a service project for community building. And we're going to be piloting it this year so that anybody anywhere can anchor their youth activity in ecology, in environmentalism, in the ability to become more self-sufficient by growing a few things, some lettuce, some tomatoes, some cucumbers. We also have tea, where they can create their own tea, herbal tea. We start with companion gardening. We then get into regenerative farming. The kids and the parents and the community can take this wherever they want from there. But the Soul Seeds program gets it up and running in one day. We're planning with the Interfaith Library something called the Family Reunion at Molly's Ranch this fall. The Family Reunion is Muslims celebrate on Friday. worship on Friday, Jews worship on Saturday, Christians worship on Sunday. So an extended weekend retreat on Molly's Ranch, the family reunion where every day is holy. And Spiritual Playdate will be providing some of the children's activities for that event, and we'll be launching and rolling out this Soul Seeds program there so that we can get the whole family involved, children, youth, and parents, and anchor it in a community project. So that's one of the things we're doing. We call the overall approach experiential learning, where there's 10% talk and 90% action and doing. So the kids are doing stuff and they've got their hands dirty. They see the results of it. We're not talking at them. We're giving them basic instruction, an overview, and then here you go.
That sounds
So
amazing.
I
Charlotte?
yeah, I have a couple of questions. Thank you, Wade. And um, it- I'm also Swedish, so if you have a minute, I
Hey,
would love to hear your. I mean, yeah, I'm truly Swedish.
I
Um,
was going to ask you. I thought maybe
yeah,
German, but then I looked at the last name and I wasn't going to
no,
comment.
last name is Hungarian,
Det är
but
trevligt att träffa dig här idag.
ja, jag vill jättegärna höra, men det tar vi sen.
Ja.
So I went to your website. Couple of questions. Is this a Baha'i, so your program, is it based on the Baha'i faith, or is it more based on a how should I call it, spiritual play date kind of foundation, or
So we
interfaith,
would,
or more?
yeah, we would call it Baha'i inspired, but it
Okay.
is because it's inspired by my understanding of what the Baha'i faith teaches, which the Baha'i faith, for those who want to know, the spiritual dead end that I was in for 10 years was because of, I'm not promoting this book, but this is the first book I wrote. It's called The People of the Sign. The sign
Okay.
was the seventh day Sabbath. We kept the seventh day Sabbath and the Jewish holy days, and that made us super special, right? But that sign, I came to understand theologically, is the sign of the Mosaic covenant. So I asked myself, what is the sign of the Christian covenant? And I came to the conclusion that the sign of the Christian covenant is John 13:35. By this shall all men know that you are my disciples. That means any outside independent third party observer who is not a Christian should be able to tell from the sign you have proudly hanging on your establishment that you are a disciple of Christ. What is this thing? By this shall all men know that you are my disciple, that you have love one for another. The Baha'i faith gave me the theology that is all embracing, the theology that allows us to not worry about who is a Christian, who is a Jew, who's going to hell, who's going to heaven, all this stuff. So that's why it's Baha'i inspired, but it is not a Baha'i
Okay.
organization. It's not funded
Okay.
by the Baha'i community. It doesn't have to
Okay.
conform to certain Baha'i specific things.
So then
Long-winded
my
answer, but
two
that's the
more.
answer.
No, but that's so a couple of other questions, and that is do the students pay to attend?
So all of our original programs were free. And then we started with a
Mm-hmm.
recommended donation, and that's how it runs now,
Okay.
recommended donation. We are encouraging ways to bring money into the organization because this stuff costs money, right? Some
Oh,
people
of
can
course it does,
afford,
and
some
that's
don't. So all of our programs are recommended donation only, no required payment.
that.
For now, that's working.
So that would, yeah, because that was my other question, is like, who is paying for this? Because you have toilet paper, you have liability, you have food, you
Well,
have
but that's why. So let me
upkeep.
tell another aspect of this. That's why these Soul Seed program and the day camps, you don't need anywhere near as much money, and
Mhm.
local people contribute, right? Some of the parents of those kids will contribute. Other people say, I want to be a part of this. What we found is when you have this outward looking approach, the whole community comes together. They love it. They instantly embrace us. We have people coming and volunteering all the time and giving money, to help make sure that it happens.
I missed where
Yeah.
you said this is located or where you're located.
We're located just south of Madison. Wisconsin.
In,
Okay.
yeah, Brooklyn, Wisconsin, right? Correct?
Yep. Brooklyn Township of
And
Oregon. I call it the Bermuda Triangle of Wisconsin, where the east and west coast are in some kind of Wisconsin swirl. Brooklyn and Oregon. Sorry,
Well, that is
go ahead.
interesting. And I know that you have a lot of other information to share with everyone too about camps and the idea of running a camp, which is kind of nice. There's a start and an end to it. You have a program that's involved. It doesn't have to be as elaborate, but you know, having a focus and a theme about planting a seed or whatever those things are. I think what we're talking about, and you know, sometimes I hear people are very worried that the interfaith movement is going to lead to some universalism, like it's a dirty word or something. But I think what we're talking about here is like whether this particular camp is Baha'i inspired or it is sort of based on universal principles that really most of us agree on are important and critical, and find ways to demonstrate those things. Um, you know, I think that's where a lot of people really respond. So the labels, while we like them, sometimes stripping them away, if we haven't learned anything in the last 20 years, I think stripping away some of these labels could be very, very helpful for all of us, because it does open a door. It does, you know, say you are welcome, as opposed to this is for us. And one of the things that our team tries to do a lot is when we reach out, because we're dealing with all sorts of different groups from different faiths. And when we reach out, we very much try to say, how can we serve you so that you can better serve the youth in your community? That's sort of where we're coming from. And you know, it's interesting, Wade, that you called it a hack, because I have been I'm going to talk about in 1 minute here. I'm going to talk about the respect challenge. And I realized I've been trying to rebrand the golden rule for about 10 years, because the golden rule, we've done a horrible job of teaching it. We have made it cliche. There are 22 versions, the Baha'is as well as all the other major faiths, and many smaller faiths have a golden rule, and they basically say the same thing. It is not karma. It's not a transaction. It doesn't mean I'll be nice to you and you'll be nice to me. That's not how it works. It's transformational. It means when I am good to you, I feel good about who I am. I lift myself up. When I hurt you, I lower you. I bring myself down. Even if I'm only subconsciously aware of it and have a pang of guilt, maybe I don't realize it. It's subconscious and I don't realize it for months on end. But the golden rule is transformational. It is an instantaneous shift in how we love or hate ourselves. And so for years, we have done so many workshops and we've done all sorts of different teachings, learnings, places that we could figure out how can we do a better job with the golden rule, because it is kind of a universal principle. And Wade, this is where I met you now that I remember. It was in Madison at some workshop, and there was an Indigenous circle keeping workshop there. And they taught us something called In Lakesh. So In Lakesh is it's a greeting and a code that the ancient Mayans used to treat each other and greet each other. And in the 1970s, it was translated into English. And I'm going to pull it up for you here, hopefully. Hopefully. Give me 1 second here. Sorry, I should have had it up. Oops, that's the Spanish version. Hold on. So in Lakesh is this, it's a code. It's a code, as I like to call it. It's a hack. Can you all see this? So when it was translated into English, it is these 3 simple sentences. There's no mention of God. It's very clear. It's very straightforward. It's where we've been calling it the respect affirmation. It goes, you are my other me. If I do harm to you, I do harm to myself. If I love and respect you, I love and respect myself. That's it. It's that simple. So one of the things that we've been trying to do, we tried to figure out, okay, so at one point we were calling this the universal peace hack. Okay, and we were going to write a pamphlet on it, right? And we were going to try to get people to start to use this when they're teaching the golden rule. And then came social media. And of course, our job is to use tech for good, is to influence kids and adults to become peace influencers, and to use social media to scale all of the wonderful peacekeeping tools that we have, and to find ways to get them out to the world quickly, because our kids grow quickly and the window closes. So what we've decided to do is we've decided to create an online video contest, a viral video contest. It's called the Make Respect Cool Again Challenge. And we have prizes that we're giving out every month. We send out backpacks and earbuds and memberships and a $100 gift card every month to a winning video. And at the end of the year, there's going to be $1,000 grand prize. And we are just starting to really market it. And I'm going to show you another little video here. Hopefully I have that handy. Hang on. It's here somewhere. That we have just posted pretty recently. And it's to start promoting this. There it is. There it is. Hold on. Sorry. I have so many tabs open, you guys. I'm such a boomer. Okay. Hold on. Okay, here we go.
I'm not hearing the sound though.
You can't hear it?
Uh-uh.
Oh no, hold on.
I'll say the words and then you say them, ready? So, you are my other me. You are my other me. If I do harm to you, then I do harm to Jesus, then I do harm to myself. And if I love and respect you, then I love and respect you.
So I would like to challenge all of you to look for an opportunity. This does not have to be with kids. It can be you and your significant other. It can be you and your annoying uncle. It can be, we've got a Girl Scout troop. We've got about a dozen videos that have come through already. We have it in French from a group of 14-year-olds in a classroom in the Ivory Coast. We have it in a Ugandan dialect where one of our affiliates is sitting with his whole village, and he speaks it in English. He has a translator translate it into their native language and dialect. The village repeats it. There must be 60 people repeating it back to him, and he does the entire thing. We have a group of preschoolers from a Guatemalan school that just won last month, and they're descendants of the ancient Mayans. So how incredible is it? So our goal is to literally get this to go viral in a way that people start to know it and hear it and become familiar. It's like the lyrics of a song. It's so simple. Once you know it, you can repeat it anywhere. People are starting to open Sunday messages with them. We've got ministers that are starting to use it Sunday messages or at their classes. We have gone into Spiritual Playdate, and every single session, we have an opening affirmation, and there's a, secular I'm happy to share my ideas with you. And then this is the second affirmation. So you can choose. So our goal is to really spread this far and wide. And I feel like when I meet with groups like this that are so motivated, I see you all nodding and smiling and excited, and what can we do together? And, there is hope in the world, right? I really would like you to hear that if you can find this and share it on social media, if you can find somebody to do this with, it's a simple, practice it a couple times. It's simply a call, you call and repeat it. And I will share with you I'm going to send you all the PDFs and everything too, so you can even print them if you want to, but you can enter it on our homepage. You can find us all over social media. But this has become an enormous personal goal for our program, for our program right now, because while I want to expand the tools and the resources that everybody has, so it's easy for people to go in and learn with kids and work with kids together, side by side, generations learning together. This is a simple thing that could have an enormous impact if we make it so. So if you could consider making an effort to look for that hashtag respect challenge, or go to Spiritual Playdate. And then the last thing I'm going to say about Spiritual Playdate is go to our homepage, sign up for the free version, or at the very minimum, the newsletter at the bottom. If you're already working with us, are you getting our newsletter? Is it in your spam? Have you seen it lately? Because we have so many things happening. And for example, we're doing webinars on Spiritual Playdate for Montessori and Waldorf schools. Schools want this. A lot of private schools want this. Public schools don't know what to do with us. And that's okay. They're not supposed to. Parents need this. Social workers need this. This is something that crosses the board in terms of the kinds of things that parents are hoping to impart to their children, but there's two problems. They don't have the resources, and they wait too long. So while our program says it's for 5 to 11, 5 to 12, it's for everyone. It is truly for everyone. If you get in there and do fear and anxiety, we are literally starting a 6-week series tonight, and we're training adults and doing fear and anxiety, and another session. I can't remember what the other one is, but with the adults online, so that you can see how it's 3-4 questions and an activity. It's simple. So don't be intimidated and don't wait, because the kids are grown before you know it. I adopted Nate my adopted son from Ethiopia, when he was 7, and he had experienced just tremendous trauma, big T trauma, before he was 6 years old. And because of the language barriers, because of all his issues, it was very difficult to start with too much with him until he was 12 or 13. And we missed a huge window. It wasn't open to us because of all the trauma, but I see it in my own life, in my own experience. I see what happens when we wait too long. And the kids are, they're in the oven baking from day one, and they're almost cooked by the time they're 13. They're not developmentally cooked. Their brain is not even halfway done, but they think that they're done, and they don't want to hear it from parents or teachers anymore. They are developmentally moving towards friends and peers. And it's problematic if we lose all of our say in this. So I want to inspire you to get serious with the kids in their community, whether you're doing this program or another program, or just working in ways that you can to serve the kids in your community with homework help, with therapeutic resources if they need them. There's so many things that we can be doing for their kids in our community. So don't be intimidated, just start somewhere. Just start somewhere. And so you can find us everywhere. You can find us on Spiritual Playdate. You can find us all over social media. I want you to do the Respect Challenge. But I do want to end by asking Wade and Ellen for a final comment and how you can be reached and what seed they can plant to stay in connection with you and collaborate with you on something that they have been excited about. Wade, you want to go ahead? You're muted.
So I'm putting my email in the chat here, so that you can connect with me that way. And I would love to connect with any of you on any topic. We have so much commonality, so many ways in which we can help each other by even just sharing a different perspective, or by connecting us with somebody else we know, or somebody who's doing something. So love to be connected to all of you. I really appreciate you devoting time out of your busy schedule to this topic. Working with the children and youth of the nation is, of course, the only way to create a better future. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Wade. Ellen?
Yeah, thank you. I put my email in the text also. Just grateful for all of you for working with children because it's so important. And thank you, Edwina, for your passion and your all the efforts that you've done for so many years to help our children. So thank you.
Thank you both. Does anyone else have anything, any final thoughts? Michael, we will send you a video. I think we're almost wrapping up here. We're going to probably wrap a tiny bit earlier. But Charlotta or Marcy, Kaya, Sue, anyone have any other thoughts? Sue?
I signed up for the 6 weeks class while we had this Zoom meeting
Oh, wonderful.
that you're starting tonight at 6:30.
Wonderful. Yeah, the spirit groups. Yep. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I look forward to seeing you there for that.
What, where can we find that information? Becky?
Be able
On
to
the
find it on my
website.
website. I'll send you. Oh my goodness. Michael just did a little somersault for us. And then I think the camera went off. I hope. Sue, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to just say thank you to all of you for being here today. And I want to continue this conversation, what I would call a climate conversation, because this, we call our program Building Community in a Changing Climate. And we're reaching out to people of all faiths and no faith and finding the best way to do that. And so I feel like we can do some wonderful work together.
A number of things came up for me when Wade was talking about the seed. What is it called? Soul seed? And the
May I share with you that we have what we call a collaborative storytelling adventure. And one of the highlights is going into the gardens of global unity, where all things are possible. And we are planting seed ideas in April for Earth Day. And this is one, we can just put that out as a resource. Basically, what we're doing is sharing resources of what people are doing successfully in the real world already that people can tap into and make happen in their own part of the world.
And to that point, we are working on a session called What is a Garden? And it takes our sessions go from kind of the macro to the micro. Or I guess you could say vice versa too, because it takes you from the very literal of what is a garden to the metaphysical of what is a garden. And we have an advisor that is does gardening classes and Wade. She also is an herbalist, and she is teaches indigenous African religions. And so there's all kinds of, synergy here about teas and all these things. So again, sharing these resources, collaborating, showing up, staying inspired. I feel like that's my job sometimes. Stay inspired. You're making a difference. So just keep on, keep on. Thank you, Sue. Marcy, anything else?
I don't think so. Just I always get so inspired and fired up when I'm with a group like this. So thanks.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah.
And Kaya, where are you joining us from, by the way? You told me Montreal?
Yeah,
Did you say
Montreal.
Montreal?
Yeah. So the funny story is that I joined really early, and me and Edwina, we met in the metro. Yeah, so I
We
was here
did.
kind of 30 minutes before the starting point. So yeah. So I would like just to thank you all, because the funny story is that when I was following the Holy Spirit, like it is mentioned in the writings, so that drive me off the church, and that drive me in other books like the Vedas, like the Jewish books, like the Torah, like the Quran. And I was also exposed to Bahai teaching. That was 7 years ago, and I was just amazed, like, wow. So there is some community here in Earth that is embracing them all in religion. So I was like, wow, that's fantastic. And then that's just stop here, because I had to continue in my way. And I wasn't so much exposed to Baha'i people as such, where I was, because I'm from Mauritius, basically. That is a tiny island in the Indian Ocean. So I think there is a community of Baha'i there, but they are really, really small, and wasn't able to reach them. So yeah. And why I'm thankful and so grateful today is it's the first time that I am being welcome in a, I won't say Baha'i community, because I don't know who is and who is not here, but the energy that I was expecting from Baha'i people is exactly that. And I strongly align with that, because I am not, I am still a disciple of Yeshua HaMashiach, and I will always be in my life. So that cannot be changed, because love is love, and I receive his command in my heart, and he opened up so much beautiful things for me. But meeting people like you guys is so much, like, this brings such a warm feeling to my heart that God is doing his work everywhere, and in every kind of way. And this is so beautiful. This is so beautiful. I'm so grateful to be here listening to you guys, and there is a purpose in all that. And I'm not standing in front of my laptop, sitting in front of my laptop, exchanging with you guys for nothing. There is purpose everywhere and in everything. So yeah, blessings to all of you.
Thank you, Kaya. That was so beautiful. Thank you. Felicia, did we answer all your questions? You have I'm sure you have a list of answers for your teenager, right? I don't know if she's with us or not, so I'll give her 1 second. Felicia, if you want to stay on with us, I will stay on for a few minutes if you have anything else to say. I don't know if you've been able to hear everything or not. So anyway, thank you all, and more to come, right? Go to our events. We have upcoming events all the time. We're doing all kinds of new trainings. We've got big sisters and big brothers that are interested in coming on board and using the program when they go out and meet with kids. So, if we can be some sort of a conduit for you guys to grow your work, that's what we want to do. We are here to enhance whatever you're already doing. So much love and blessings, and thank you again for our presenters, and I hope you have a beautiful evening and a great week. Bye, everyone.
Same. Bye, everyone.
I'm gonna give
Sorry,
Felicia.
Edwina.
That's okay. I was gonna
Um,
see if Felicia wanted to jump on in a minute. She might be
yeah,
gone.
yeah. So
I'm
yeah.
sorry, I'm
Oh,
sick.
yeah. I'm getting sick. You know what? I cannot talk. I should not talk.
Okay.
We will connect later.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for participating. I appreciate you so
Yeah.
much. Okay,
And I see you tonight, right?
okay.
I
Yep.
didn't get the Zoom link. Just like thank you for your registration. Someone will be in contact with you. I just got that mail,
Oh, okay.
so I
I'll
don't have
double check because it's being run by
right.
Unity Computer. So we'll get it straightened out. I'll make sure you get it.
Perfect.
Thank you,
Thanks.
thank you. Bye now. Bye, Mui.
Bye.